All right. Hi, all the are we? Yeah, we're like okay. Hi, everybody. Hi, all the cat and the omit aspirants. Good evening. Yeah. So you can see the today's topic on this screen. We'll be doing Parasummary. I have you guys here, so you can just give me your answers, your doubts, your apprehensions in the chat. And before we start with the questions, we'll obviously do a little bit of theory. We'll try to understand the questions, we'll try to understand the approach, the options that are to be eliminated before we jump to the questions. So kindly make notes, brief notes with me as I give you those away because I mean, it does have a little bit of theory that you need to be careful of. All right. Good evening. Uh, hello. Wonderful. Let's begin then. Please let me know if my audio or videos, this if there's something wrong with it. All right. Parasummary is a very significant question when it comes to CAT. Um, minimum one, maximum three questions could be asked for parasummary. This is not a TETA question. This has options. So there's going to be one small passage, uh, 4 to 5 lines, and then we'll have to pick an appropriate summary. Sounds quite straightforward. Okay, you just have to pick a summary. We know what a summary is. Let's try to understand the definition of summary. Summary given text. Okay, so it's the concise information, most significant, most important information. उसको छोटा करना and उसको paraphrase करना. That is summary. So parasummary is a paraphrasal and concise text of the given text. That's what parasummary is. Now, we've done this in main idea a little bit. Main idea and parasummary are actually not the same. So, main idea may we have done that we are supposed to remove supporting ideas, and in just a second, I'll just write it down. Yeah, but in parasummary, we have both of these. So that's the difference between parasummary and main idea. So main idea has no supporting details. Okay, it has only the brief, concise idea, but parasummary can sometimes also have certain supporting details. Okay, now the supporting details, what are those? Let me just mention them. Now here opinion हो सकता है, obviously author's opinion, not examiners, not your opinion, only author's opinion. ठीक है, ये एक सपोर्टिंग डिटेल हो सकता है. नेक्स्ट, किसी चीज का if the main idea is global warming, reason, okay, there are multiple reasons. One of the reasons or the biggest reason that is mentioned can be a supporting idea and can be mentioned in the para summary. Now, factual data can sometimes be mentioned, sometimes can be omitted. Factual data means statistical data. Now, if your statistical data is directly proving your main idea or author's main point, then yes, it could be left in. For example, if the author is trying to prove the erosion of the Hindi language in India, and he's giving the stats of how 60% of the Indian youth cannot speak Hindi well, then that factual data can be included in your para summary. So this is actually a little iffy. It's quite dependent. Okay, so what do I mean by dependent? I hope you've realized till now, cat may there are no perfect cookie cutter answers. You have to technically settle for least worst. So if you find an option that has that has a factual data and is technically the least worst, it's not bad. It could be your answer. Now, one thing that cannot be added and is usually, let me put it that way, is usually not added in a para summary are examples. Okay, you are not supposed to do that. Let me just draw a line so you know what is being discussed here. All of these things are the extra stuff that you can add in your para summary beyond main idea. Okay, main idea तो आपका theme है, आपका gist है, ये तो आएगा ही. And all of these can be added. Examples are usually not added. Now, para summary is like when you heat up milk, you're left with like khoya, right? Like dense khoya, and all the water is gone. So that's what para summary is. It's supposed to remove all the water, and there should only be dense khoya material. So examples can be omitted. Anything that's reiterated over and over can be omitted. Okay, only things that should remain is the main idea, the theme, the tone. Okay, the author's, if there's author's conclusion, if there's author's solution given, that should be included. Rest, hata do. Okay, so I'll move to the without I won't raise this. I'll just move to the next one, and I'll mention that make sure your summary is very precise. Okay, it shouldn't be too verbose. It shouldn't be very expansive. It shouldn't be too wordy. It has to be very precise. Next, it should be in sync with author's perspective and author's tone. It should be in sync with author's perspective and author's tone. If he's critical, the summary you should be picking must be critical. If he's assertive, if he's positive, if he's negative, pick the summary as per the tone. Now, the correct answer will always be written in different words. We just did the definition of para summary is paraphrased text. So you cannot really literally copy paste the above text. If there's an option that is doing that, there's a high chance that is a wrong option because it is supposed to be by nature a paraphrasal of the original text. Okay, next very significant thing, the sequence of ideas can be changed. Okay, so if there are three features discussed of an iPhone, you can put the second feature first and the third feature and the first feature last. That is completely fine. But What you can't do is you can't change the logic of it or the grammar of it. For example, you can't make cause the effect and the effect the cause. So if X is leading Y, you can't go for an option which says Y leading to X. That is logically incorrect. Okay, even grammatically incorrect options, okay, have to be omitted. So sequence, there's nothing hard and fast about how it should mirror the exact sequence, not really, but logic और grammar को छेड़ नहीं सकते. Okay, this is I think the basic theory of parasummary. Now let me just give you what options are to be eliminated. I'm sorry if the red ink was making you squint. I just changed my ink. Yep, there we go. Now the options that are supposed to be eliminated are anything that's too verbose, okay, something that's too wordy has to be omitted. इसी का उल्टा anything that is short and sweet but is partially correct, मतलब सिर्फ आधा बात किया है, then that is also a wrong option. So let me tell you, if hypothetically you come across two summaries that are very exactly in the same nature, they deliver the main idea, same tone, everything is perfect, they have the similar sort of details. So the option that you should go for must be the shorter one instead of the longer one, okay? Because that's what parasummary is. It should have all the mal and masala, but it should be smaller in nature. So anything that's too wordy, hatao. Anything that's too small, in the sense that it's removing, it's omitting significant details, usse bhi hata do. Distorted options, abhi kya tha? Anything that's logically or grammatically distorted has to be omitted. Okay, twisted, misinterpreted options. Again, author is saying A is the reason of B and नीचे दिया है B is the reason of A. That is twisted option. Although everything is from the passage, but it's all twisted. It's khichdi. So kindly omit. This is a very common bad option type. ठीक है, बहुत common है ये आता ही है, and most people might lose marks here because this is very confusing because everything is technically from the passage, but you've not understood the crux of the passage, the logic of the passage, the flow of the passage, then you might get fall for an option like this. I mentioned examples are usually avoided. This was mentioned, so kindly be careful. Any option that restates the idea in the same words, please eliminate. Okay, because again, it does not only have to be concise, but also a paraphrasal. These are two important features of a parasummary, and your ideal option should follow both of them. This is quite an obvious one. Anything that's not discussed in the passage can never be in the summary of the passage. So anything that's out of context or new idea, please eliminate. Opposite tone, author का opposite tone में बात हो रहा है, easy elimination. And generalized or extreme options also have to be eliminated. ठीक है, ये कैसे होते हैं words like only, all, none. All of these words are extreme words and can be eliminated. So these are the 8 common bad types that needs to be eliminated. The most common one is distorted options. There's also another one, I can write it on top here, is a rotten word. So rotten word means the entire thing is correct. There's only one single word that is either out of context or is actually distorting the entire option. So that can make the entire option wrong. So these are the most common bad option types that you can encounter in para-summary questions. I had mentioned this before. If there are two options that restate the gist in the same words as question, okay, then you are supposed to select the shorter one. That happens rarely, but if you do come across it, kindly select the shorter one. When you're summarizing, please break down the ideas. So kindly label them as main idea, and then there could be multiple supporting ideas. So you can label them as accordingly. So MI, SI, SI, SI. And then if there's opinion, there's author's point of view, author's conclusions, you can label it accordingly. Now this will help in very quick elimination of options. Okay, I think this is it for the theory of parasummary. Let's get to application of this theory in questions. Today I have a mix of certain CAT level questions and past year paper questions. So let's practice everything. Now this is one small example. Before I explain, I would like you guys to try your hand at it. So I will give you, I think, 5 minutes to solve the question. After 5 minutes, we can discuss the answer for it. So it's a small passage, around 60 to 70, around 70 to 80 words. This is a good passage, and you have to pick an appropriate summary for the given passage. Now, what I would like you to do is try to identify the main idea, and then if there's anything supporting or any detail that is only written to prove this, you can label them as supporting idea. If you find the tone or you find author's opinion, you can label that accordingly. This will help in quicker elimination and coming to your answer. So kindly use this technique for your own good. It's, yeah, I will just write the time here. Hi Jonah, hi Rajneesh. Welcome to the para summary chapter. We're done with the application, the theory. Now we're trying a couple of examples. This is the first one. I want you to read it, try solving it, eliminate the options as per the bad option and elimination that we discussed, and then let me know what your answer should be. and then I'll give you the right answer. Okay, I think I'll just our last few minutes and then we discuss. I don't think this is a very incomprehensible passage. The passage is quite straightforward, and this is also not a PYQ. The PYQ usually have text that are, good, a little bit wordy. They have good vocabulary. This one's quite straightforward, but the options here are quite close. So let's quickly look at it. Internet shutdowns have many names, online curfew, and so. And a favorite for its augury is the digital kill switch. This is the author's favorite, so this is definitely the main idea. If the entire paragraph is going to talk about that, then that's your main idea. It captures the growing centrality of electronic communications in modern society. It goes beyond the mere disruption of flow of information to a halt to life itself. India has the second highest number of internet users in the world, but worryingly, the internet continues to be shut down in some states. Kindly be careful of words like these. These are tone words. Worryingly. This is author's tone. Author is unhappy about these impromptu shutdowns of the internet. So that is author's tone there. Such disruptions clearly disproportionate and even counterproductive. Another negative sentence, another criticism for the digital kill switch. Extensive arguments have been made by many organizations and researchers who have clearly established that internet shutdowns set a domino in motion that damages fundamental rights. Now, this is not a supporting idea, but could be your main idea because this is what the author is trying to put across. Digital kill switch is bad because it is disproportionate, it's counterproductive, and most importantly, it's damaging fundamental rights, digital economy, and even public safety and order. So, despite these, there seems to be a hardening of positions both in the legal. Okay, so despite all of these troubles, there's hardening of positions both in the legal rules, which authorize shutdowns, and the increasing executions, which is becoming a standard. Okay, understood. This is clearly a supporting idea that you can overlook. Now let's look at the options. Let's eliminate the obvious ones. No, Jonah has given his answer. Okay, let's eliminate the obviously bad ones. Look at option C. The government has no option but to perform the digital kill switch when there is a state service exam to be conducted. I mentioned the summary should be from the passage. This is clearly not discussed in the passage, and it sounds like more of an opinion, which is not the author's opinion. So, this is definitely not your summary. Many wonder why the government needs to take such harsh measures. Now, author's tone is not bemused. Bemused, Ani, he is not confused. Okay, that is not author's tone where he's wondering क्यों कर रहे हैं लोग. The author's tone is उन्हें नहीं करना चाहिए. ठीक है, so let us stick to that. Now we're left with A and B. A, the government chooses to shut people out of the world as and when it pleases them to do so. Yes, the government does choose to shut people out of the world, all given in the passage, absolutely correct. But this portion is never discussed, never touched upon. Okay, so this is not in the passage. But look at B. Cutting people's access to digital communication is a violation of basic human rights. Definitely mentioned here, definitely a part of our main idea. Okay, he is also not happy, so this is definitely also abiding to the tone of the passage. Therefore, the answer to this can only be option B. Good job. So this was not the PYQ, but this is exactly how you can get a question where if the passage is easy, the options might get you, and if you've not even understood the passage, then there is no point of going to the options. I recommend you move forward and solve a different question because to solve a para summary, you need to understand the passage. अगर in case passage नहीं समझा है, please move to a different question. Please learn to skip. Okay, now this is a PYQ. This is a PYQ. Okay, now usually all my session ones are guided explanations and just basic theory explanation and everything. And I usually practice in session two. So, but still, I would like to give you guys a few minutes for you to try your hands on the question and then I'll explain you the answer. I would like to know your logic also for the answer choices. So, let me give you 5 minutes. There we go. Let's come back and discuss at this time. Okay, can we? Yep, I think it's time. Let's discuss. Okay, let's discuss. This was a PYQ, but I had added because I felt like, as compared to other PYQs, I found this relatively easy. So I had added this in the first session. Obviously, in session two, I will up the ante, but I found this relatively easy. Jonah has given me his answer, so let's see if your answers match the correct answer. But I would like to know the reason also. I mean, why are you inclined to that option? But let's try to read the passage. For psychologists to understand the way in which adolescent girls develop in relation to the world around them, it is important to examine adolescent girls' friendships, close friendships, considered by social scientists to be most rewarding and satisfying of all human relationships. Okay, now this is clearly an example of a supporting idea. How? Because this is only explaining what friendships are. This is not your main idea. Main idea is author is saying that अगर आपको जानना है कि adolescent girls कैसे डेवलप करती हैं, आपको उनकी दोस्तियों के बारे में जानना चाहिए. दोस्ती क्या होती है? That definition is a supporting idea. So you can label it accordingly. What is known about girls' friendships and peer relation is based primarily on situating girls with boys. So the existing data that they have about girls' friendships is about friendships that have boys in them. That's also another supporting idea. Although these studies provide important information, they offer little understanding of the diversity of experience and perceptions of friendships among girls, including important distinctions girls make among types of friends and the nature and quality of this relationship. There has also been little attention given to the ways in which all of these factors shape their friendships, and even less attention to these factors in which girls' friendships are nurtured. So the author is constantly saying how existing जो data है वो अधूरा है. ठीक है, there's little attention given. Okay, although these studies are made, but they offer very little understanding. So it's like the author is urging that there is a lack of literature on girls' friendship. Okay, I think that's what we've got out of the passage. Now let's look at the question. Let's look at the options. Let's eliminate the bad ones. Okay, one very obvious bad option that I can spot right in front of me is this one. More research is needed to understand the role of popularity and attractiveness. Never discussed, never touched upon the many features that he wants to know about, or the many factors that come into play that he wants to know about his class, culture, race, ethnicity, and sexual identity. Popularity and attractiveness has nothing to do with all of these, इसलिए हटा दो फटाफट से. Similarly, C में भी appearance है. You can omit this too. Okay, so this was again once the entire thing was correct. Only one word makes this option rotten. Remove it. Now we're left with 1 and 2. Let's compare. Girls' friendships and peer relations mitigate or exacerbate the psychological and social struggles of adolescence. मतलब girls' friendships and peer relations. Their friendships, they reduce or they increase the psychological and social struggles of adolescence. Is this the conclusion of the passage? Are we sure that these factors increase or decrease the psychological and social struggle? If you read, this is actually mentioned in the passage, but let us see in what context. Hmm. Close friendships, considered by many social scientists to be the most rewarding, are clearly important for social and emotional health for all adolescents, regardless of all of these factors. Okay, but that's the definition of close friendships. What the author is trying to really find out is how these factors are linked to their friendships. If they increase friendship or friend groups, or if they reduce friend groups. He's trying to understand. See, there has also been little attention given to all of these factors. Although these studies provide information, they provide very little understanding of different experiences and perceptions among girls. So he's unsure of how these factors are actually going to come in play and make or break friend groups. So technically, there is no conclusion, but option one sounds like a conclusion which we don't have. So one cannot be an answer. He wants a conclusion. He's looking for a research or a literature to conclude something, but right now we don't have this. Now look at two. More research is needed to understand the friendship of adolescent girls so as to understand how these girls grow and develop with respect to the surrounding world. Now, even if you are still finding option one valid, just compare the two. Compare one and two. Okay. As per comparison, two is comparatively better, relatively better. It's the least worst option because it's summarizing everything. Okay. It's summarizing author's urgent need for research and how he's mentioning multiple factors that he's looking for and its influence on their friendship, which is also all mentioned in the summary. So the answer for this is two. So good job for everybody who went for two. Okay, I think the passage was quite straightforward. The option there could have been a potential confusion, but if you look at every single word carefully, it will help in quicker elimination. Therefore, please read every single word very carefully. Let us try one more. Yep, it's 40 right now.
Oh, you're supposed to tell me the which of the following is a parasummary, not which one of the following is not the parasummary. So tell me which of them is. In this passage, what is the point of discussion? Obesity is a major healthcare problem among the most frequent causes of preventable deaths in 21st century. It is recognized as a global pandemic that causes multiple problems. Metabolic syndrome includes, so all of this is again supporting details. There's no doubt that junk food or meals from restaurants tend to increase body weight, while a sedentary lifestyles also contribute to the problem. According to the agency and research, there are links between PFA and reproductive and development problems, liver problems, adverse effects on the immune system, carcinogenic. Carcinogenic means cancerous. Okay, sedentary lifestyle means on the बैठ के काम करने वाला. Okay, the sedentary is where you sit a lot. A new study explains why eating more homemade meals could be better for people's health. Okay, so this is the solution of the problem. So all the lines above were discussing obesity is bad, and here we're discussing the solution of obesity, which is eating more homemade food. Okay, these are found in, okay, then it's about PFAs, and that's pretty much it. And then it's all about definition and its problems. So obesity, bad, found in outside food, can be fixed with homemade food because it does not have the same chemical that is found in outside food. Understood. Let's get rid of the bad options. Overeating at restaurants and fast food joints lead to several health complications. Yes, they do. But is this summarizing the entire thing? Right? This is only half of the problem. Where's the other half? Where's the solution part of it? Not given. This is a partially correct option. Batao, आधा है. Eating is not as important as leading a healthy life. Completely distorted. Never have they two been compared. Actually, eating is important for a healthy life, but eating and healthy life are never compared. See, not as important as means comparison. Nothing is being compared here. So this is a completely distorted option. Khichdi, ekdam. Eating is not as important as leading a healthy lifestyle. So C says leading healthy lifestyle is more important, eating is less important.
B. Obesity is a big killer. Home cooked food is better for healthier life. Not bad. Not bad at all. A. Eating homemade meals is safer for people's health. Obesity leading up to a host of other conditions is now considered one of the most frequent causes of preventable deaths. Uh, oh, my bad. Yeah. A and B almost mirror each other. See, A, A, B, B. They are almost mirroring each other. Eating homemade food is safer for people's health. Home cooked food is better for healthier life. Ekdam same. Look at the first part. Obesity is a big killer, and A says it is one of the most frequent causes of preventable deaths. It's actually mentioned here. It is not a big killer. Okay, it can actually, the deaths that it's causing can be prevented. So the half first part of the option B is extreme. Okay, it's causing damage, but the deaths are clearly preventable. A follows that tone, B does not follow and becomes a little too extreme, due to which the answer for this can only be A. I mean, I mentioned in the beginning, when you find two options that are almost the same, they mirror each other, they give up the same main idea and everything, you're supposed to pick a shorter one. So you could have been more attracted towards option B, but B, although shorter, is not correct. The first half of it is extreme, whereas A is not extreme. So you have to be careful of these things as well. Let's solve one last question for today. Now, this is a PYQ again, so be careful. I mean, this is the last question of the day, so ending with a good question. I mean, if you've selected one option, make sure the other three are not your answers. So, in ideal CAT scenario, in the exam scenario, अगर passage ही समझा नहीं, skip. Don't attempt the question. If you've not understood the passage, there is no way you can choose a summary of the said passage. Skip. But in case you've understood the passage, you can come to the options and start eliminating. If you've eliminated two options and you're only left with two, go ahead, try eliminating another one by revisiting the paragraph and dissecting every single word of both the options, and then you can pick your share. But if you cannot eliminate more than three options, technically neither, सिर्फ एक ही ऑप्शन एलिमिनेट हो पाया या एक भी नहीं हो पाया, move on. Okay, move on, skip 40 minutes. There's no time left to be stuck at one questions. There's so many other places that you can where you can redeem yourself. So approach it accordingly. Now this question is looks tricky, but it's actually not very tricky if you read it very well. Greek and Shakespearean tragic drama exhibits human suffering, desolation, unmotivated ruin, and even physical horror, those bindings, mutilations, and murders. Now, I'll tell you one more trick. You can ignore everything that's in the bracket. Skip everything that's in the bracket. Yet, we do not leave the playhouse. Playhouse is not your dollhouse. It's the place जहाँ पे शेक्सपियरियन और ग्रीक प्लेस हुआ करते थे. वो थिएटर, वो playhouse का रेफरेंस दिया गया है. Yet we do not leave the playhouse, crushed, despair, and hoping to avoid such display in future. So although it represents or it has so many negative emotions, the writer is saying that we are actually not leaving the reading or the theater feeling crushed, despairing, and hoping to avoid such display in future. So we do not leave to avoid such display in future. We are not trying to avoid it in future. On the contrary, our sensibility is complexly enriched and somehow rewarded. We feel better after watching such dark plays. We register in Newton's thoughtful phrase a strained sweetness of grief and fear. Unquestionably, this strained sweetness has positive elements. So, when we watch such a negative play, we leave with positive emotions. Okay, positive emotions of grief and fear. It can provoke at great depth of consciousness and understanding, a dynamic peace, a tensed equilibrium. Okay, so something that's so negative leaves us feeling positive. Wonderful. That's what the passage is about. I hope you've registered the passage. Now let's look at the option. Now let's get rid of the obvious bad ones. Look at option 4. Though tragic drama exhibits suffering, it has positive elements to it, which we hope to avoid in the future. You are right, it has positive elements to it, as mentioned right here. But are we trying to avoid these elements in the future? Please try to understand in what context is this mentioned. Yet we do not leave the playhouse, crushed, despairing, and hoping to avoid such display. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, hoping to avoid such display, this display. So the author is saying that we are not trying to avoid negative feelings in the future. Obviously, there's going to be suffering, there's going to be pain, there's going to be death in future. We don't come out of a playhouse feeling, I wish my friend never dies. Okay, I wish my parents they never die. No. That's what the author is saying. Here, पॉजिटिव एलिमेंट्स को हम अवॉइड करना चाहते हैं, ये तो कुछ बोला ही नहीं है. This is a perfect example of a khichdi option. Everything from the passage, but it's a total mess. It's a total mess, so eliminate. Look at the third one. Tragic drama can help us in a positive way by giving us an equilibrium which we cannot avoid in the future. Again, okay, it is not about us avoiding the equilibrium in the future. We will have that equilibrium in the future. It's going to be impromptu. वो आएगा ही आएगा. And actually, we're happy about it. We are ready for it. Right? This is not something that we're trying to avoid. So again, distorted. Look at option one. Though tragic drama exhibits human suffering, we do not avoid their display in the future. We are rewarded with a kind of peace that we do not otherwise experience. Perfect. Like human suffering that we do not want to avoid their display in future. That's exactly what's written here. Almost word to word. Hoping to avoid, we're not trying to avoid such display in future that we see in the play or the display of human suffering. So करेक्ट तो है इतना, बाकी का पढ़ते हैं. But we are rewarded with a kind of peace. Yes, we are. Mentioned right here. That we do not otherwise experience. Where is this mentioned? Can this even be inferred? Can this be concluded implicitly? Okay, that we experience a peace जो हमें इसके अलावा कहीं नहीं फील होता. ऐसा कुछ बोला है? बिल्कुल नहीं बोला है. ठीक है, सो सिर्फ इतना सा फ्रेज आउट ऑफ कॉन्टेक्स्ट है या नॉट गिवन है जिसके कारण पूरा ऑप्शन बेकार हो गया. नाउ वी लेफ्ट विद 2. लेट्स लुक एट 2. Though tragic drama exhibits human suffering, we are enriched in some positive ways by watching it. Okay, given the mixture of fear and grief can arouse a dynamic equilibrium. Absolutely. A strange sweetness of grief and fear, okay, which can provoke, it's given right here, provoke any cause, arouse. So this strange sweetness can indeed provoke, arouse dynamic peace and tensed equilibrium. Even if you have the least slightest idea of what this means. Okay, what does dynamic equilibrium mean? You have no clue. You can still solve a question like that. Okay, because they've used the same word. So you just have to focus on words like this. This follows the right cause and effect and summarizes my passage and is technically the least worst out of all the options. Hence, 2 is my answer. This was a PYQ. Okay, a good PYQ startled a couple of students because it looks intimidating, but if you dissect it, it's really not. So this was also a perfect example of how the options you will get. Most of the options will appear to be very close, but on close inspection, you will find them absolutely distorted. Okay, even if you're finding majority of the option to be spotless, there might be one word or more than one word that is not from the passage as option 1. But option 2 is completely spotless and is aligning the given text, the given main idea, giving supporting details. Hence, 2 is the best one. All right. This was all for Parasummary session 1. Okay, I will bring up more challenging questions in session 2 where I will try to up the ante, and I would appreciate your responses which I had today. Wonderful. Before leaving, I will give you your homework question. This is your homework question. I would like you to put your answers in the comment section and I will check in there. If they're wrong or right, I'll let you know there. Okay, that's it from my end. Good night, folks. See you guys in the next session. Thank you.